Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Classical Crossover Magazine videocast series, Connections. We hope that you will enjoy today's special episode, which features an incredible baritone who started his journey often Broadway.
Hi, everybody, and today we're excited to interview Chris Pinnella. So hi, Chris.
Hi, everybody.
It's so great to have you on. How have things been for you? I know it's been kind of a crazy time for musicians, so.
Things have been good-ish. It's been, the beginning of the year was rough, I think and it's still rough. But I feel like now we're slowly starting to get the hang of things, especially even, in terms of like live streams and all of that. I think everybody's kind of has that under their belt at this point. So we're trying, that's happening. But now with me, where I live right now, I've been trying to kind of get back into venues to actually do some live, like in-person performances. So that's slowly starting to happen as well, going into like the holidays and everything. So it's been, everything just kind of went like this and like collided in the last like 4 weeks, I feel like, where everybody's like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? And then, I said that before when we were, before we even started this, that I like not forgot. I knew this interview was happening, but I woke up and I started working on arrangements for a project I'm working on, and the time just like flew by. And then I looked up and I wasn't even showered, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this interview with you. So it's been a wacky couple weeks, honestly, but all good things, which is good. So yeah.
I think in a way we're almost busier, right? Because like we're discovering, like we always had Zoom, but for some reason now we're like, oh, we can do interviews, we can do collaborations.
Yep, it's so true. I think that's the interesting thing with everything this year is people do seem busier, especially with all the online content. And a lot of people, like I've done so many different collaborations this year that I would have never done. So there's been a lot of opportunities this year, I think, that wouldn't have ever happened otherwise, because of everything that happened. so it's been, even like doing the thing with you guys last week and all of that, I feel like everything's just kind of, people are reaching out more to kind of collaborate and work together. So it's been a cool time for that, and getting everyone kind of connected in that way.
So when did you actually start performing? Because it seems like you've been performing most of your life. So this might be a big difference where you haven't been performing for like the first time.
It was a weird year. So I started performing when I was, I started singing when I was really like super little. Like as probably when I could talk. But and then I was in choirs all through elementary school and all that. But when I really started doing like, I guess musical theater, which is really where I started, was when I was 12. I got cast in a production of Oliver. And I played the Artful Dodger when I was 12. And then from there, it was just like, I was hooked. And I started auditioning, tons of local stuff. And then moved to New York, went to school in New York for college, and then went from there to, off-Broadway, Broadway national tours, all that stuff. So I was like strictly musical theater. And then, but I was always a huge fan of like Tony Bennett, Andrea Bocelli. And then when Josh Groban came along, that as well, like it was just all these things and I always kind of admired all of them. And I always had that in the back of my mind that that's what I wanted to do. And when I graduated college, my professor, the head of our department, had our class. There was only like 12 of us in our whole class. And we went around and she goes, what is your goal? Like, what's your ideal career goal? And everybody's going around there and everybody's saying Broadway, I want to be a lead, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I would really love to tour and be on stage in arenas and play for like tons of people, like as a musician, like as a singer. And she was so mad that was my answer. And she like got really mad at me, and she was like, "That's not supposed to be what you're saying. I thought you've been here for Broadway, blah, blah." And I did, and then I went on and I did all of that. But what really changed everything for me was Trans-Siberian Orchestra when I got that, and that actually happened through a connection that I made in college. So I was in a production my senior year of Ragtime. And Adrian Warren, who's currently or not at the moment, but is playing Tina in the Tina Turner musical, which opened, I know, in London and now is in the US. Adrian was Sarah in that production. So all of us were friends through college. And when we graduated a couple years out, I got a phone call from her and she's like, hey, I might have a job opportunity for you. Someone's going to call you in a little bit. So I got a phone call from the talent person from that. And then that kind of rolled into like 6 months of auditions. And then I got hired to be on their, actually wasn't a Christmas tour. It was a rock opera that they had written called Beethoven's Last Night. And I was playing like young Beethoven was the role. And we toured all over the US with that. And then I got asked after that to be in the Christmas productions, which were nuts. So that was so that happened. And that's, so it's all been connections in terms of how I've gotten things, even like my experience with getting to work with Julie Andrews, that happened again because of a director that I had met in college that thought of me after school for this role, and it was originally supposed to go to Stephen Pasquale, but he was doing Rescue Me, I think, at the time, that TV show that was on FX. So he wasn't available, so they called me, which is just funny to think about. It's just a funny thought, like, to think about now, because I'm like, oh, so that happened, and that was an amazing experience too. I got to spend Thanksgiving with her and her family in the Hamptons at her house, which was insane. And the coolest thing, the moment that I always say to people, and sometimes it's funny because like people that are into music like you, like will understand this moment. Some people don't when I say it, but so we had finished Thanksgiving dinner, and her longtime arranger and like really good friend, Ian Fraser, was also our musical director. So Ian conducted like almost every single one of her concert performances, and arranged everything for her. So Ian was like 80, he was in his like mid 80s at the time. So we're all sitting down in the living room, and Ian turns to Julie and he goes, Jules, I want to show him the video. And so we're like, what are you talking about? So she goes, no, I don't want to watch that. And he goes, no, come on, we have to watch it. We haven't watched it in years, blah, blah, blah. So she finally is like, okay. So we put this, it's like a cassette tape, put the cassette tape in the VCR, and it was her last concert performance before she lost her voice. So it was in Japan, I think. And Ian was conducting and she was there. And I remember we were all, weirdly, for some reason, nobody was on the couch. We were all sitting on the floor, leaning up against the couch. And I remember Ian sitting next to Julie, and they were holding hands on the floor. And they both had like tears in their eyes. And we were all just sitting there watching this amazing concert. And it was just this moment where I remember looking over and seeing them. And they were just so, just the admiration and the love and just like all the feelings it brought back. It was just such a cool moment. And it was all through music. I mean, you know what I mean? The second that the orchestra started playing and she walked out, Ian was just like, his heart filled up. And it was just like, it was amazing. And so yeah, there's just, it's, I think it was just a great thing. And then just the weirdness of the fact that I got to work with her. I remember the one time I was in like a store in the Hamptons, in Sag Harbor where we were. And I was buying like potato chips or something stupid, and she like tapped me on the shoulder, and she like came, she was like, hi, it's like, good morning, gives me a hug, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is happening right now? And I remember it was funny, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she was like, when she found out, she was like, it should have been me. It should have because I was also like, I watched all those movies when I was a kid, Sound of Music and Mary Poppins and all that, but I think my wife was like, obsessed, but on like another level. So she was like, it should have been me. But yeah, so that was a really cool experience. But now, going forward, the trajectory of everything with me is TSO, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, changed everything and really kind of gave me the confidence that I didn't have in terms of stepping out in the front and kind of, commanding a band. And doing that. So my first concert ever was in New York at the Duplex in New York, which is like 60 seats in this like narrow, tiny. Have you ever been there?
I haven't.
So it's like this tiny. It's so small, And I just had a piano player, and it was just, you know, it was so funny. But we did that, and then yeah, since then, I mean, it's been, I think, like 8 years since that concert now at this point. So now we're all over the country doing shows with it, went from a piano to like a 15-piece orchestra.
Wow,
So
nice.
so we've really changed. You know, now we have the main component is a string quintet. So we have 5 strings, and then essentially a rock band is what it is. So it's fused together with that, and I have 3 backup singers too that sing with me a lot of the time that are amazing. So that's the thing. Now what we've been doing a lot is taking like a lot of just classic songs, even for like from you know, way back, from dating back. Some of them, the things we have are from like the 40s, but all the way up,
Nice.
mainly in that like classic rock period of like the 60s, 70s. And it's completely redone in the same way that all classical crossover stuff is.
Yeah.
You know, you're taking songs that are kind of iconic and you're redoing them, and you're kind of, you know, and interpreting them in a way that nobody's hopefully ever heard before.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's and that all stems again from like my 16-year-old self, like I said, listening to Josh Groban and Andrea Bocelli and Tony Bennett and all these people in my basement. So it's like, it's all, you know, it's full circle kind of in that way too, of like being able to do all this, and thinking that I wasn't at the time when I was young. I was like, oh, it's musical theater, but in the back of my mind, I always had that little
Maybe. Yeah.
thing of like, this is really what I want. So yeah, so it's been cool.
So it sounds like a lot of the things that you like, the networking, and did you also study instruments when you were in college? Is that kind of where it started, or?
No. So the funny thing is, so I played trumpet for 14 years.
Okay.
And I stopped when I went to college. So from 3rd grade until senior in high school, I played trumpet. And that taught me pretty much how to read. And it also, which I didn't realize this until I was older, gave me really good breath control
Yeah.
because of the way that you have to play that instrument
Exactly.
and blow into it and all that. But and I always like could kind of play the piano, but I never took lessons. And that changed when I was in like my mid-20s, because I was tired of working at restaurants in New York. So I decided I was going to start teaching voice lessons, but I couldn't really play the piano. So I just knew the scales, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I took on like a ton of like little kids, because I knew like I could kind of fake them out. Like I knew they would not know if I was horrible. So so that's what I did for a while. But in doing that over like 5 years, 6 years, I fully learned how to play the piano. So now I can, you know, you can pretty much throw anything in front of my face now and I can play it. So that's another kind of weird thing that happened, not on purpose, but kind of did. And now I play piano in my shows, and it's it's totally, it's crazy. So that's another thing that I never thought that would happen either. But that was out of like a need of just wanting change and wanting a little bit more control over my schedule and my day to day at that point. So I kind of pushed out of my comfort zone and did something that at first made me really uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
And so when you first started doing like crossover, did you kind of change your technique at all, or are you kind of using that same Broadway?
It's pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I listened to so much Josh Groban
Mm-hmm.
and so much Andrea Bocelli that I think I've somewhat sucked in some of their like tone and inflections and things over the years.
Yeah.
And but training wise, I was classically trained from the time I, you know, it was appropriate for me to start training. And then I feel like my college voice teacher, Tim Howard, was really the one that kind of took me to the next level of training. And then there was a period of time where I was studying with Josh's voice teacher, David Romano.
Nice.
And that was a funny period. Just because it was just that was another one that was just like, it was like a weird connection thing where my manager was friends with David. And so connection was made. And then we started, we started training. It was like 2 years, I think, of doing that. And then that kind of stopped. And now I do most of my training still with Tim, because he's just, he just gets my voice in a really good spot. And that's, you know, it's another thing of like just trying to keep with the training even as you get older, even if it's not maybe on a weekly basis, but like a, you know, twice a month or monthly, just to kind of, now it's more like a checkup than it is like a, you know, a full like thing. It's like more like, yeah, well, this feels like it's working, but this isn't. And, you know, and let's figure that out. You know, it's very diagnostic now, as opposed to just kind of coming in and singing like we, you know, yeah, so that's kind of all that. But yeah, it's, but from I think from like a training perspective, my vocal training in college, and then, you know, we did, you know, and then it was musical theater. So it was acting, and we got all that stuff. And my sophomore year, actually, I had like somewhat of like a crisis, and I changed my major to communications.
Okay.
and I went and got, yeah. But I kept, what was cool about my school is they had a musical theater minor. So I kept the minor, and I lost like 2 classes. I think I lost like Shakespeare and like set construction, which I was kind of like,
not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's fine. So I still got everything else, and I was in all the shows and everything. So it really didn't affect my experience in that way that much. And then I interned at Sony for the last 2 years of college, in their like marketing department, and their so we did like, and I think I attribute a lot of that to, you know, I do all my own everything. I design my posters, I do all the ads, I do everything. So that's why most of the time I am going insane, because I'm doing a lot more than I probably should be doing.
Yeah.
But in that way, it's kind of saved me a lot of money too, because I'm not having to kind of dish it out to people and do that. So, but yeah, so I actually have my major is in communications, but I have a minor in musical theater now. So yeah, so there's that also kind of funny component to my life.
Well, I mean, that has to be very helpful to have that background, especially you said working at a label, you probably picked up a few things.
Yeah, it was good. We did a lot of like press stuff and a lot of like meet and greets. Like I remember I got to meet Ozzy Osbourne, and Sharon. We did a whole thing for his Prince of Darkness box set. I remember that like vividly, because like I was like a fan, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm meeting you. And it's funny because the picture I have, I wish I had it on me, but no idea where it is. There's like a Polaroid picture, and he just looks so not there. He's like just so out of it. But he has his glasses on, like his, you know, circle glasses, but he's just kind of like, and like my friends are all like, that's a cardboard cutout, that's not him. And I'm like, no, I swear to God, because it looks, the way he's standing, it looks like I'm have my arm around like a cardboard cutout of Ozzy Osbourne. So yeah, I have to be like, no, it was real, it happened.
It was a person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say with your voice, it's something that was just kind of like always very natural, kind of like your speech, or was it something you had to work on to really get it where you wanted it to be?
I think it's a good question. I'm trying to remember, like, definitely, yes. It was a lot of, it was definitely work for sure, because I remember mostly more on the side of, like, more work on the side of like trying to figure out like placement, I think, and where to kind of, trying to think of like I used to be like a big like I would just like power through a lot of stuff like when I was younger, and I think maybe a lot of us did. I mean, I know that from even the students that I have now, like when you're in that like mode, like you're listening to like Les Mis and you're listening to all those, like everybody's like, oh, how do I do this? Okay, I'll just push. Like,
yeah.
So when you're that age, I feel like, so I think I had a lot more, I was lacking a lot of technique when I was younger, but in terms of like my tone and that aspect of it, that was kind of always there. So I guess that kind of, yeah, to answer your question, that was kind of lent itself to things. But in terms of like being able to really feel like I could control my voice, that was definitely a lot of years of training and kind of trial and error and figuring stuff out with different teachers. Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And I have to go back to your role, and it was Simeon's Gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit, that was a new role for you. So was that something like you read it and you started doing research of how you wanted to interpret that character? Or I think, was Julie Andrews actually the director? Was she kind of giving you guidance how it was, or?
So that was it was a funny process, that show, because what happened was, so I had just finished a production of Carousel in Dallas, and I was Billy Bigelow, and the director of that show came to see it. And so I got a phone call from her like like late October, like probably right around now. And she was like, hey, I have a part. I'm directing a show out in Sag Harbor, and you don't have to audition. I showed them all your stuff. They love you. They want you to be the lead. It's called Simeon's Gift. And then she goes, oh, and by the way, Julie Andrews is going to be there. And then I'm like, so that was literally how I got this show. There was like, so there was no, they didn't give us anything. So that's what I'm saying. We had nothing. I had nothing to read. I had nothing to listen to until I literally showed up for the first day of rehearsal. And the rehearsal process was a week or like 10 days, or not even. It was like, I think it was like 7 days, but we were working like, it was like 12-hour rehearsal days. Because then it was like, it was 2 weeks total, the whole thing. It was a week of rehearsals and then a week of shows, but it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had Mondays off. So it was like, and then it was over Thanksgiving. So it was crazy. So the process of the rehearsal, so she actually didn't direct the show, to tell you that, but she was there every single day. So we would get notes from Marsha Milgram Dodge, who was the director. And then we would get notes from Julie. So we had 2 sets, and I have them in my book still, of like Marsha notes, Julie notes, and like, and they were, they were very similar, but Julie's, I think the strength with her, and I thought was so fascinating, was she wrote the story with her daughter. So I don't know if you know the backstory of that, of how this came to be. So so when Emma, her daughter, was very little, Julie was filming Mary Poppins in London. And her husband at the time, Blake, I think it's Blake Edwards, who was also doing costumes and something for Mary Poppins. So, but he was going back and forth to Los Angeles for other projects. So what they would do is Emma would stay with Julie for a certain period of time, and then Blake would come get Emma, and they would fly back to LA. And so in a way to kind of keep them connected, they started writing this story, and it turned into Simeon's Gift. And when Emma was older, she said, hey mom, like, why don't we see if like we can finish this and put it out there. So Simeon's Gift was the first like published children's book that they put out. Which was a decent amount of time ago now. I think it was 1999, I want to say.
Okay.
And Simeon's Gift, the production didn't happen until 2006, or our production. There was another reading in New York, I think the year before, with a totally different cast. And but so that's how the book came to be. So she knew every single detail about what they needed the characters to be like, what they wanted, how his disposition was, who he was, all of those things. So she was so much into the lyric interpretations of everything, and like in the songs and even in the dialogue, but just emphasizing and it lends itself to the way she sings anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like she was her diction was so fantastic, and the way that she kind of sunk her teeth into words was so great. So those are the things I remember sitting next to her in the theater, and she always had she always would have a big jar of peanut butter with her. And because her voice by the end of the day would get hoarse, so she would use the peanut butter as like a lubricant, I guess. So she would kind of like, if she was talking for a long period of time, she'd have this peanut butter with a spoon, and she'd just kind of take a thing of peanut butter, and then she'd keep talking to you. So she was talking to me with the spoon, like gesticulating with the spoon, and she was just kind of like, like when you say this, it has to be, think about it like this, like say it like this, and I want the inflection this way. And like she was very particular about and it would be a single word, it wouldn't even be like a full sentence. It would be like, I want you to emphasize, like, I'm trying to think of a line from the show. There's a song called Gift. It's the last song of the show, and the opening line is, traveling the world I have surely come to see, everything there is a part of you and me. And her taking that, it was traveling the world I have surely come to see. Everything there is a part of you and me. It was like really just like, you know what I mean? It had that, and I use this with my students too now. It's like, it had this like almost like an electricity to it, to the words. There was an energy there, and the way that it all kind of flowed into the next line. And she was brilliant with that. I think that's one of the best parts about her as an actor, is her interpretation of lyric. So that's kind of was the most of the coaching with her was lyric based. It wasn't so much singing based. It was almost fully lyric based. Her coachings was song coachings basically, which was great. And just, another really cool, crazy thing to just say that happened. But yeah.
It's really interesting because, like you're saying, when you listen to her, she definitely had that speech quality. Like, you can feel that come through. So that's fun that's what she was teaching you too. And you could kind of see that in your singing when we showed your Hallelujah performance at our concert. It was very emotional, very heartfelt. I think, I just messed up my words. Heartfelt.
Yeah.
But because I feel like a lot of people, they do that song and it is a beautiful song, but it can just be, like the beauty of the song and not necessarily it can be quite painful in different moments of that piece.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you seem to do it a lot.
Torturous song.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned, I think through my experience over the years is like, I used to be fully like younger me was fully about the music and the melody. And the connection to the lyric was not there. And through all of these kind of experiences that I've had leading up till now, that's to me, at least, that's one of the most important things. Like for me as a singer watching another singer, like I would rather have a note be kind of, obviously not flat, but I would rather have a note be affected in a way that wasn't maybe perfect, but had some sort of emotional tinge to it that affected me as well, than hear somebody just sing it perfectly and beautifully through, without any kind of emotional grounding to it. So like when we took that song initially, that song's evolved over. I've been doing that song for years now, and it's evolved into the version that we showed on the show the other night. But we used to just do it with piano, and then we got commissioned two years ago now, by the Philadelphia Museum of Art to do this like special, like was like a holiday performance for this like event that they had. So, but they said, we want you to bring your full orchestra, and we want you to do Hallelujah. So it was like these very specific things. I was like, I don't have an arrangement for that. Like we just do with piano. And they were like, okay, we'll do it with the band. So my arranger and I like worked on this brand new arrangement. And the only thing that was missing from the one that we did the other night was I didn't have the backup singers at that concert, but normally that whole interlude where there's the guitar solo, that's actually like three like gospel backup singers doing these hallelujahs over and over again, and it just keeps building and building and building. So we really, and we're in the studio now, working on a different song, but the goal is to have an album out by like next year, at this point. And that will be on there, that the version with, the full version with all the bells and whistles, and it'll probably be even more symphonic, because I'm trying to throw in a lot more strings into it too. So it sounds a little bit more, even bigger than it already does. But in terms of the music side of things. So yeah, so it's a lot. It's crazy. This year has been so crazy, like in terms of projects, because I feel like I'm making I'm making less money this year, but I'm busier than I've been.
Yep.
So it's like it's so weird. It's like, why am I so busy that I'm not making any money? Right. So it's like, it's been a crazy year. So hopefully that kind of catches up with the other end of it.
Yeah, right. Where you actually get some return on all the investment you're putting in. Mm-hmm. So are you doing your own arrangements for the album then?
Yes. Yeah. So it's all my own arrangements, and then I work with a couple different arrangers right now. Like my main arranger who I've worked with for years is his name is Justin Hornback, and he's a Broadway conductor. He's conducted a ton of different shows at this point. I'm trying to think of the last one he was doing before everything. I think he was doing Little Shop off Broadway, was the last thing he was doing. But prior to that, he had done Hello Dolly with Bette Midler. He's doing tons of different things. So he's awesome. And then now I've been working with two new arrangers as well, just specifically for strings, for my original song that I wrote called Rise. And that's going to be where we've been working on that for like about like 3 weeks at this point. And the missing piece right now is the strings, and we're trying to make it Everything else is recorded. The final vocal isn't, but there's, a scratch vocal on there. So but the final strings are not. So I'm working with these two guys that are just like phenomenal string players and great arrangers. And both of them, they're New York City based too. And they just did a concert. We did a big drive-in concert
Nice.
a couple weeks ago. And it was really cool. It was like, none of us knew what to expect. So we were outside on like a huge stage, and it was like 600, like about 600 people it ended up being. So it was like 150 cars times 4 people a car or something like that. But it was just so cool. And like I had my really good friend Chloe Lowry, who's toured with like Yanni and Chris Body, and we met doing Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but she came as a special guest. So it was just it was everybody's first time back. And the craziest thing was that, well, not crazy, but it was kind of just comical, is the cello player, when we were doing sound check, everybody was kind of just making noise, like everybody was like, as they usually do. And then the cello player, my sound guy goes, okay, let's hear the cello. And he starts playing, and like everybody just stopped. And we all just started looking over at Aaron, and we're just kind of like, almost like as if we had never heard a cello before. Like, because we haven't heard a cello
in such a long time.
In 8 months, like a live in-person cello. So like, it was like this weird moment for everybody where we're like, huh, that's what that sounds like again. Like, wow. Like, and so then when we all started playing, it was like really just crazy. Like, it was such a weird feeling to have not done that for so long and then been back. And it makes you reevaluate a little bit, because, like, as with anything, it doesn't matter what profession you're in. Like, and I know people will say that, oh, well, you don't count because you're a musician or you're a singer, and you should always be loving what you're doing. And I do, you know what I mean? But there's a business side to it. And there's just also like a creative side to it, where you can just kind of burn out after a certain period of time, in terms of like trying to figure out all these different things. So at this point, it kind of did make you like, everyone I talk to is the same thing. It's like, wow, like I really never realized how much I need this. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, what I've realized this year is I can't function. Like, if I don't have a show, specifically really live elements, it's the studio stuff is fun and it's fantastic. But to me, it's like operating in like a sterile environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not as free, it's not as open. There's not the energy exchange between the audience and the performers, and like, that's like what I love. And I think that's what I think we've all been like just missing. And I realized that like, I need that. I need it. Like, I think for as long as I live, even if I like, some reason just stop doing it, I feel like I would still need to like jump into things to keep to keep things going. But so yeah, it's been, like I said, this whole year has been really like interesting and kind of enlightening in certain ways as well, of just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. I work most of the time in an office, and then I do this and singing on the side, and I feel like you can get lost when you're doing the business side, or even if it's just like you're thinking about the marketing, when's a good time to schedule these posts. When you actually sit and just make the music, then you're like, okay, now I'm home. This makes my place makes sense of the world again.
It's like, this makes sense.
So you actually don't live I think you're in New Jersey, right?
I'm in New Jersey. Yeah. So we were in New York for 10 years in the city. And then we actually were in New York for 10 years. We were out in LA for a year. And then we came home. Our plan, this is funny. Our plan was to come home and get married, because everybody we know is on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then we were going to move back out to LA. And I got, in between that time is when I got hired for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So my wife was like, we were both kind of like, do we do this now when I'm not going to be home for like, 4 months at a time, and then I'm home for a couple of weeks, and then I'm back out on the road? Do we do that and like move to a new place where you're really not going to know anybody? And then, so long story short, we stayed in New Jersey. And then we had my first daughter, who's now 4, which is crazy. Cora, or Remy, my God. And then we just had Cora is my parent brain now. We just had Cora. She just turned a year old at the end of August. So we have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old now, 2 girls, and so it's all, but it's great. I mean, and in New Jersey, in terms of everything, our state's been the strictest on, in comparison to a lot of other states with all the lockdown regulations and the rules. So we've had a little bit of a rougher go in terms of trying to get things going again, in general. But I mean, more so for musicians, it's been tricky to get anything going, inside especially. So I've been working with, there's a venue that I do shows at a lot. And it's just, I love it. It's right on the ocean. And it's like a 360 venue. Looks like a flying saucer. It's like a big circle. And it's a supper club. So everybody has dinner, and we go on stage, and dinner and drinks and all that stuff. And I called the owner, who now at this point I'm friends with, and I said, well, let's just see. Like, I guess I said, we're at 25%. So that means, we just figured out everything. It's like 25% means we can have 60 people in there, and this is how much we'll charge for tickets, and you do drinks, and here's all the protocols and spacing the tables out and all that stuff. So we did our first show there last week, 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
And it was great. Everybody, it was a Thursday night. So it was which was great, because we had, it was sold out with 60 people.
Yeah.
Normally it's 250 or more. Yeah. So it was sold out if you look at it like that. And we had, but it was great. I mean, and everybody had a great time, and it was safe, and we did all the stuff right. So now we're going to be back there, the 12th and the 19th. And then we're going to be back there for a whole bunch of Christmas shows now too, pending, and that's the whole hard thing with all of this, is you don't know it's still day to day, which is, which stinks. But at this point, and I even said this to the owner, I said, listen, like, we're both aware that it's day to day. I'm aware that it's day to day, but we have to just put it out there at this point to people, especially going to the holidays, because I said that to him, like, all the major things are not happening.
I know.
So people's traditions of like Radio City Christmas show, and like all the like nutcrackers and the Christmas carols and all those things are they're not happening this year. Even like, I don't even know, we're still trying to figure out like Christmas tree lighting, like, is that happening? Like in New York, like there's so many things that are up in the air that I think people are going to be longing to do something. And I said, if we can offer that in a safe way that makes sense for people, then why not? And so that's what we're doing. And then I also have another show mid-November in a theater, and it's the same exact thing. It's a 600 seat theater, but it's only 125 tickets per show. And they're all spaced out all over the theater. And so we're going to do 2 shows there. So it's happening. It's slowly happening, and I haven't felt unsafe, and none of my musicians have felt unsafe yet. So everybody's taking it seriously. So it's not like it's because you have to. I mean, I feel like even if no matter what your thought process is about any of it, and I've said this to so many people, we're in the business of like, I want this to work, like, for everybody. So like, I'm not gonna like be like, oh, whatever with it. Everybody has to be serious about it and do it, so that we can kind of start showing people like,
it can be done. Yeah.
It can be done, and it can happen, and it's cool. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's like where we are with it right now. And I think hopefully by, pending anything crazy happening, hopefully we'll be back, like I said, like we'll be back there in December, and then starting in like, the beginning of the year. Cause now they're actually starting to pull in all different acts, which is great. So they're bringing in so they're getting people working, that's the goal of it, I said. And even with my guys, like, I'm making less money right now in terms of like the shows, because they're smaller audiences, but I'm paying my musicians the same as I would as if it was normal. And that's only mostly because I just feel like it's not, I don't know. I just feel like I kind of, not that I owe it to them, but I kind of just feel like, why not at this point? If because we're doing more shows, so it's like it's not like I eventually will catch up in terms
Yeah.
of making it, but for them, they're actually making more money because we're doing way more shows than we ever have leading into the holidays this year, because it's 60 people, so we have to do four shows to do one to make the money of one show. So it's crazy, but yeah, I don't know. It's just all nuts,
Well, when we edit this up, we'll have a little screen here. We'll put those dates on. I'm not sure if New Yorkers will be able to come, but if we are, I'd definitely like to come hear you. That would be fun.
I know. Yeah. New York is it's so tricky to get into New York too, to do anything.
So we'll see. If not, I would definitely love to hear you, because I thought about that a few times. I'm like, he lives pretty close. I should probably go see one of his shows, but.
We might be doing something up in North Jersey too for Christmas. I just don't know yet. It hasn't been like locked in yet, but we might be doing something up in Summit, which I think is definitely closer to you, in terms of, travel, but yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what else you have. So you have the album that's coming. Are you releasing Rise as a single first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So Rise. So the goal with the album right now is I'm taking it like, we're doing it single by single. So it's going to be released on like a single basis until a full album exists. And I think the only reason why we're doing that, I think, is to build up kind of like somewhat of anticipation for the full album, but also like, because I've realized that I like working on one song and finishing it, as opposed to, and this is from years of doing this, as opposed to like doing like going for like booking a studio out for a week and trying to do a full album in like a week or 2 weeks. It's easier to just go. I go for like 3-hour sessions. We do whatever we can get done in those 3 hours, and then it's done. And then the next week I'll go back and do it. So I'm doing it like in more of a methodical process. And it's paying off way better than normal, than when I normally kind of get in there and I'm like, okay, I'll calculate it out. I'm like, we only have this many hours to do this whole thing.
Yeah.
So do your cello part and get out. Like, cause it's like the time is money thing, because it is. But like when you're self-producing stuff, it's like, you don't have that luxury, I feel like, of just like, or like, of like like a Josh Groban, who's kind of just like, free reign. Like, when you just have the studio for the rest of your life and create, you know what I mean? Like that would be like the ideal situation for everybody. But that's not how it is. So that's what I've been doing, and it's been great. So we have that, and then single by single that will come out. And then the big thing for people that aren't in the New Jersey area for the holidays is we're filming, we're doing a like a Christmas, like a live stream show.
Okay.
So it's my full band, and I have 2 people signed on right now, but I'm probably going to end up having more at this point in terms of not musicians. The band is all set, but I have 2 guest singers. One is this woman by the name of Leon Holmes, who had toured with Bon Jovi and toured with Springsteen, and like she's one of their like main backup singers, and she's phenomenal. So I'm having her as a special guest, and I'm having this little kid who's like unbelievable. His name is Braden Morgan, and I think he's in 4th grade. He sounds like a young Michael Jackson, this kid. So he's jumping in to do like a special performance with us, and then it's just going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of, and we're filming it kind of in a Saturday Night Live style, where like in between songs, you'll get to see like backstage what's going on behind the scenes as well. Yeah. So you'll get to see like, I mean, this is just all in my head at this point, but like you get to see like somebody like getting makeup put on their face, or like you get to see like the, kind of like one of the camera operators, or like someone fixing the lights, or like all of that stuff is going to be going on behind the scenes. And then we're most likely, if we can swing it, going to offer like different ticket pricing. So like there'll be one pricing that people will have access to the sound check prior to it even starting. Kind of like what everybody's doing now. So it's like sound check access, and then there'll be like a package that's just for the live stream, and then we'll do like CD package options and all that. But the cool thing, what I'm doing with mine is once it premieres, you're going to be able to have access to it for the whole month of December.
Nice.
So like, so if you have people over and you want to have it on in the background, like Christmas Eve, or like, you know what I mean? Like you can have those options, instead of it just kind of disappearing into nowhere. So that's also with which will be cool, because I think it'll encourage people to want to like have it for the month, which will be fun. And so that's the biggest thing I think for people that aren't New Jersey based, is that's the main thing. We're doing a big crazy holiday extravaganza concert,
awesome.
which will be I'm really excited. So it'll be really fun. We booked like this huge sound stage. It's like this and it's different because we're not doing typical like concert vibe, where we're not doing like most of the live streams, it's like all black and there's it's lighting and it looks like a stage. We booked it's a sound stage, so it's this massive white cyclorama. So it's like the cyclorama looks like it's all rounded edges. So the whole thing looks like it's just infinite, and it's just bright white. So we're going to be on this big white, pretty much background, and everybody's going to be in like, I'm wearing like this red velvet Christmas jacket.
Nice.
So like everything's going to kind of like pop.
Yep.
And it's going to just look very cheery. It's not going to look like a dark like concert vibe. So it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. So there's time, and that's what I was doing this morning. I was like writing the first Noel, like a new Christmas arrangement for that. So that's like all I've been doing now, is like writing Christmas arrangements already.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, when do we start as musicians? It's like August. You're already thinking like, what repertoire you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Christmas. I'm like calling venues in like, usually like July and August to be like, so Christmas, what do you think? Yeah.
But it's great because like when you think about it, these awesome selection of songs, you really only can play them, most people only play them during a month. So it's nice to have that extra time with them, because I love Christmas music. So.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. It is. It's a lot of fun, and it's cool. Like just finding, like even today, like with the thing I just did, like I found this. Let me see if I can do it really quick. Like with the first Noel, we did this like different thing, or I did this different thing with it. Why is my piano not playing? Oh, because the headphones are. But we did this. I think it's Born is the born. So we're doing this ending of Born is the King, and then what am I doing? Born is the King. Like so we're really like, I'm trying to like change it up a little bit, and then the ending we have this like is right, and then we're going to this. Sorry. So we're kind of making it, not that usual, no, kind of making it a little bit more heartfelt.
Yeah.
Because I realized so many Christmas songs are just waltzes. A lot of the Christmas carols are waltzes. So like we're either completely changing the time, so we're putting them in 4, we're putting them in 6, or so that they have a more driving or more of just a feeling vibe. Even the way, like I always say, like with how Josh Groban did it came Midnight Clear. He put it in 4 and it completely changed the song. And I guess David Foster did that, but like just the way that they did that has that, I think that's what it is. It has that like, it's not, it can't, yeah. So it just gives it more feeling, and which is, I think, at this year, I think people are going to be really wanting all that. I mean, I put like a kind of like a cryptic post up the other day about things I'm doing for Christmas, and so many people were like, I can't wait, we need this, we need that, so it'll be fun to kind of help people along through the holidays with music. I think it'll be a cool thing to do, and yeah, and it's always fun. I mean, Christmas is always fun. It's always a crazy time. I said it's like one of those memes, I feel like, with me, like the Michael Bublé meme where he's like coming out of the cave for Christmas. I said I need to make one of those for myself, because that's how I feel now. It's like, it's Christmas time. It's like,
here you are again.
Yeah, I'm back. But yeah, so
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm sure everyone is too. So we'll definitely link to that once we have that ready to go.
That would be great.
It has been so awesome talking to you, Chris.
Yeah, this was so much fun. This was awesome.
And we hope you'll come back and do another concert with us in the future. It's now that we started, it's just like I have so much fun doing them. So I want to keep doing that for sure.
Oh, it's so cool. It's honestly, the coolest thing was getting to see everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, that's like, and just certain singers that I just was like I had never heard of. And like, now I'm like going on, like following everybody on like everything. And it's awesome. It's really cool. So
Yeah,
thank you for doing what you do, because it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Chris. We'll put all the links. Everyone go check him out. And if you can, buy the music. Streaming is great, but we always say encourage you to buy also. So thank you so much, Chris. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you. You too. Thank you so much.
Bye, Chris.
Yep. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's interview. Please check out these classical crossover new releases that are coming your way, and be sure to stream, like, download if you can, and share your support for these amazing artists.
I am new to this world, I arrived here this morn, to this beautiful planet, though beat up and torn, I don't need a gift. Not alone, I'm by your side wherever you may go. Like the stars up in the sky that serenade the moonlight, I'm here to guide you home. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices. For the Yuletide tells the story of a Savior born to thee. They are dancing despite the lights. Not all is bright this silent night. Despite the lights, not all is right this holy night. Oh, lonely night. Through the years, I'll recall this day in your arms, when I finally found my way. Momenti insieme, momenti mitici e magici, per sempre nei nostri cuori, momenti liberi, momenti in due, in tutto ciò l'unica cosa che so. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
Join us next time for another episode of Connections here on YouTube at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please subscribe and like if you want to see more of this content, and mark your calendars because we have a very special Christmas spectacular coming your way. A Crossover Christmas will be premiering December 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard right here on this channel. So go ahead and subscribe, tell all your friends, you can share the Facebook event with them. We have some amazing performers lined up. And if you want to have behind the scenes access, join us over at Patreon and you can get to watch the whole concert before it premieres to everyone else. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.